It's been a few months now, and now Marvel Rivals has really been a huge commercial success. I mean, it is, no pun intended, rivaling against some of the biggest hero shooters out there, even the biggest one, Blizzard's Overwatch. I mean, their overnight success has now forced Overwatch to recalibrate in a way and start marketing some new content and new features that fans have been kind of asking for quite some time. One of them being loot boxes. Oh my god, loot boxes come back to Overwatch. Seems like, all of a sudden, Blizzard can kind of do the things that players want. They're introducing a new hero, and I wouldn't be surprised if they said, hey, PvE is coming back. But that's always great. I want this type of competition to be present in the market, because when a single genre or is dictated or be monopolized by one single studio or game, they can kind of get comfortable with themselves and not really try to outdo themselves or do something new and interesting. They just have to do the bare minimum because they know they're the best in the genre. They don't have to compete with anybody else. But Marvel Rivals stood out from the crowd and offered a hero shooter that really was distinct, unique, and filled with such robust array of heroes and mechanics and just all sorts of things that finally gave the hero shooter genre a nice refresh. And it makes other competitors sweat, and that's good. But despite this overnight success, it seems that NetEase, the major publisher behind Marvel Rivals, has made a recent decision to lay off the Seattle-based design team for Marvel Rivals, despite the game's significant success. That is very strange. I have to tell you that how this game's commercial success had over 20 million downloads. It had huge financial gains, reportedly over $200 million since launch. All of this, and still the company decides to reduce staff for organizational reasons. Yeah, that's what they said. These layoffs, honestly, they come as a surprise, especially considering the game's positive reception. And even the game director has publicly expressed his surprise, sharing the news on LinkedIn and remarking the unpredictability of the industry. He says that the layoffs are part of a broader trend at NetEase, which has been pulling back on its international investments and restructuring its operations to cut costs. This includes shutting down studios in the US and Japan and rethinking the scope of some projects, which is PR lingo for cut costs, maximize profit. Somehow, the executives can see that they can still keep the ship moving despite taking out a big chunk of the design team out and saying, hey, I think Marvel Rivals can still be operated without that team and we'll still make more money. And I wonder, and I'm sorry to hear about this, because I'm sure the design team that was involved was extremely talented. They did, their work really shows with this game, and the players love it. But at the same time, you have to try to think, like, why such a clear cut type of layoff even took place to begin with, and how much of the game is going to be affected moving forward, especially when they promise and they have like a roadmap of major content coming out on a seasonal basis, even mid-seasonal basis. Apparently, from what I understand, they come out with 2 to 4 heroes every 2 to 3 months. I don't quite know the rate, but it's much faster than Overwatch as well. And so, a reduction like this in Seattle and the Seattle staff is intended to, I guess in their eyes, to optimize development efficiency. And that means, restructuring for a better resource allocation. So I think maybe what's happening at the same time is, there could be a very commercially successful product, but in the long run, is it really necessary to have this big of a workforce for this type of game? Because as a live service kind of, moves forward, I think what happens is they start to look at like what is enough to keep this live service going, to provide the seasonal content, to keep the player base, interested in coming back, while at the same time trimming down the workforce as well. The minimum amount of workforce for the most amount of output. And I know this comes off as like very impartial because these are developers. These are very talented people, very passionate, and this is their livelihood at stake. And putting things on paper and trying to think of it in very impartial statistical sense makes it inhumane at the same time. I really do wish all the best for the design team in Seattle, who every single one of them who got laid off. I hope that they can find better work. They can find newer projects that they can jump into with ease. I hope that NetEase, the publisher, is providing them a shift to helping transitioning them to other lines of work through recommendations, whatever it may be. The gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It makes a lot of money, but at the same irony is that studios and publishers are so keen to do layoffs like it's nothing in this day and age, and it's such a shame because it's a loss of talent. It's a loss of great value that I always believe that you can make the best kind of games. And I never give credit or kudos to the publishers. I give credit and kudos to the developers themselves. It's the developers that make those games. It's not the publisher. I think people need to remember that, and to lose that kind of talent just so that you can make something that, by paper, following trends, like, oh, this is what's popular now, let's just make it, making a soulless cash grab. It's never going to resonate with players, especially in this day and age. Players can tell if you're going to end up making something that's soulless, that has no real luster to it, that's being developed by passionate people. Concord, great example, after PlayStation pulled the plug on that. But moving forward, the state of Marvel Rivals. NetEase says, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to change. We're on course. Forget the layoffs ever happened. And the other PR lingo that they put out there. It's purely for investment purposes. There's nothing more to it. Cutting costs, maximizing profits. It's a dirty business, but it's business nevertheless. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more news from the world of entertainment right here on the Evening Buzz.